Things are just starting to green up for the spring. Just came out to do a screwdriver test, see how frozen the ground is, to see whether there's any moisture in it. Now, basically, stab it in, you can feel how much resistance there is. I can feel that there's about an inch or so of frozen ground, and then it's pretty easy to slide it in. So I know that it's still a long ways away from needing to water because the soil's still frozen, but just trying to do one of my regular routines just to see how things are going, so that I know when it will come time to have to water. That being said, when do you know when to start watering in the spring? If you're in an area like mine where in the wintertime you wind up getting a lot of snow, as you can see there's plenty of snow back there on the mountains. It's kind of difficult to know when to water, because if you're following ET, which is evapotranspiration, which is how much water evaporates from the soil and transpirates from the plant. When you follow ET, it says, well, it shows that you've got, for example, today's only going to be probably 0.3 or 0.03 inches of water that's required, but later this week, which I'll put up the information on it, later this week it's supposed to be closer to 0.11. Well, it's still too early to water. When do you know when the time is right? There's a lot of contributing factors to that. One of the main contributing factors is, do you have established turf, or do you have established plants? In a place like this, where it's been established for at least a year, it's actually been a couple of years, how long can you wait? Because that's really what you want to do, is you want to wait if you can, because it helps you to develop a good root structure. The roots will chase the water in the spring. As it moves downwards through the soil, the roots will start growing downwards. Another contributing factor to that, though, is when you fertilize, because if there is no moisture coming from rain or snow, which depending on what's going on, if there is no water coming from that, you will have to water in your fertilizer. But other than that, you want to try to, in an area like this where you get a pretty decent freeze, you're going to want to wait as long as you can in the spring. Maybe stress that plant out a little bit so you can get a better root structure. Anyway, I'll come back to this video in a minute, show you another place and some more conditions. Here we are at another location, only about an hour later, and a few miles away. As you can see, there is a substantial amount of snow. So very recently, the weather at this location, or these locations, has been dramatically different, and yet they are still in the same valley. So to touch again on the when do you water? Obviously this ground's not going to need any water for some time. This snow is only about an inch or so thick, but it rained beforehand, and I know from collecting data that we got a little over a half an inch of moisture at both locations. This area, the ground may be just a little colder, so the snow that fell actually stuck. It's, there's again a lot of different contributing factors to this, but I know that it's still about a month off from watering, maybe 6 weeks, but it's always good to start early and find out, get an idea of how healthy your turf is going to be coming into the watering season, so you can make a little bit of a better plan. In this case, what I wind up doing is I will take the accumulations of the amount of water that we got out of all this precipitation, and I will calculate those up and use them as a guide as to how much water is likely to be in the soil. Because the soil, again, getting back to the soil profile, it's got to have room for air, organic matter, and water. About 25% of it is typically where the water is being held And in the spring, the idea is to not have it completely full. You want to have, you let the weather do what it does, but then let it dry out in between. And the reasoning behind that is so that your plant can run its regular cycle and start developing a decent root structure, and repair itself from all of the damage that's happened over the winter and the preceding season or seasons. So, to answer the question, when do you start? Well, the best way to go about that is to see how well the plant is performing, and let it give you a guide as to when it's starting to stress out. In this case, if I were to clear off, there we go, clear off a little bit here and show you, it's still completely dormant. Well, you're not going to be able to get that to green up by watering. It needs to green up because of temperature. If the soil is too cold, no matter what you do as far as putting water on it, the grass isn't going to green up. So you let the plant tell you when it's time. Typically what I wind up doing is I let it go until I let the rain support it until you get to a point where everything is completely green and looking gorgeous. And afterwards, when you start watching it, well, sorry, not afterwards, you start watching it weekly, and you decide when to start watering just by watching how stressed the plant is getting. When you start getting areas that are drying out and looking like it's going dormant again, then that's when you start considering watering. And keep watching the evapotranspiration rates and the amount of water that's coming down. Try to calculate them up. That is a good practice, but the reality is that if the plant's not ready for water, there's no sense in giving it to it. Thanks for listening.